You are listening to the We Are Not Safe for Work podcast. Your hosts, Renee and Nadja, will dive into all the different reasons why some entrepreneurs become unemployable.
Oh my gosh, check out that countdown. Isn't that so much fun?
That was so fun. So, you know what that made me think of? We've been talking in my house a lot about the future of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep catching snippets of different things. So, OpenAI apparently released, let me get the name of this right. Hold on just a second. Just this made me think of that.
Okay.
Some kind of economic report.
Well, who did this? OpenAI?
Yeah. OpenAI's economic blueprint. And I want to print this out and read it. It's 15 pages long.
Ooh. I'm like, oh, I like reading, but a report. Well, no, it depends on what type of report.
Well, here's at the beginning of it. We believe America needs to act now. Now, I haven't pre-read this. I have no idea what this is going to say. We believe America needs to act now to maximize AI's possibilities while minimizing its harm. AI is too powerful a technology to be led and shaped by autocrats, but that is a growing risk we face, while the economic opportunity AI presents is too compelling to forfeit. Shared prosperity is as near and measurable as the new jobs and growth to come from building the needed infrastructure. Soon, our CEO, Sam Altman, has written, AI will help our children do things we can't. Not far off is a future in which everyone's lives can be better than anyone's life is now. That is also positive speak, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing that I keep hearing is that pretty soon jobs just won't exist in the same kind of way. And the reason I lead into this is what I'm about to say is very doomsday.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't mean for it to be, because I think our job now is to figure out let's just say for a moment that I am correct in what I'm about to say, which is crazy.
Right.
But let's just say I am correct. Then what? I think is the next question. So what I told Andy this morning is the way that I think we should think about this is if you are someone who got to stay home during COVID, that the likelihood of AI replacing your job soon, and when I say soon, I would say within the next 48 months, is high likelihood. If you are someone who could not stay home and do your job during COVID, you probably are not looking at a quick replacement, but a slower replacement. Yesterday, I saw a video of robots. This blows my mind. Robots folding towels. Now, you might be like, that's awesome and who cares? But there were two robots at a hotel and they sat there for 24 hours a day. They wash and fold. They wash towels, dry towels, fold towels. And that's all they do at that hotel. That's it.
That sounds kind of amazing, though.
It does, right? It does sound amazing. But also, there were humans that were recently doing that job.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So it is amazing, except if you are a low-skilled worker,
then that's your livelihood or your opportunity is gone.
Right. So I heard Elon Musk.
Okay.
I'm saying that name. But anyway, did you know he's going to have an office at the White House?
For his Doge department or whatever?
Yeah. Apparently, Andy told me that he's going to have an office at the White House.
But he's a private citizen.
Well, lots of private citizens have offices at the White House, though.
Do they really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you're on the cabinet or something like that.
Fulfilling my role as an American citizen, I don't know the ins and outs of the workings of our government.
I don't know many things myself. I only know this because Andy told me.
Sure.
Because I have been just completely disconnected.
Right.
But anyway, so I heard him say he was in an interview just recently, maybe within the last week, and somebody asked him about what are people going to do when these jobs are replaced? And he
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't know, maybe hobbies?
I'm surprised he didn't say, I don't care.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. Um, so
I mean, that's a little unfair. Maybe he does care, and it is part of the whole, like, I mean, just to be like completely optimistic. Let's just put our rose-colored glasses on for a second, right? Um, maybe maybe the plan is for a more utopian society where people can have some sort of like they're able to live. There's a livelihood where your purpose is not work. Your purpose is to enjoy life. So if you do have
sure.
time to spend more on hobbies and things that you enjoy doing without having to worry about working, but that's the part that hasn't been figured out yet, right? Because the whole concept of universal income is also something that people don't want. Um, but how are you supposed to survive if you can't earn money?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. There's so many questions. And also maybe all of this is for naught because maybe it won't really happen, or maybe it'll just create new jobs or jobs will shift. I don't honestly know. What I believe, I personally believe, and this kind of cycles back to the whole true essence of why we do this show.
Hmm.
What I personally believe is that if you are someone who works at your desk, if you're a desk jockey,
Hmm.
most likely there's not a part of your job. Anyway, someone that has a job at a desk, some part of their job is going to be touched in some way by AI,
Okay.
if not replaced.
Right.
So I think what's left is going to be infotainment and entertainment. So that's what I think the future. I think
Mm.
maybe we'll have a universal income, and if you
Hmm.
are someone who is happy with if you can be content at home, chilling out with your friends, or chilling out in your bed, scrolling or doom scrolling, and that is all you need in life, I think you'll probably be okay. If you're someone who is driven to create, then there's going to be an opportunity for you to create and entertain in some form. Because let's be honest, if you today is inauguration day, if you are
Yeah.
watching the inauguration, I think it's already done. But if you did watch it, or you're watching the after parties, or the news coverage about it, all that is that you're watching at this point, because it's over. Now
Hmm.
all you're watching is some kind of infotainment of some sort. Because if there was some true breaking news, you and I would know about it.
Oh,
Like
that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if we had been invaded by war, by now we would know it. If
Right.
something truly major was happening, that something that is true newsworthy, you
Hmm.
and I would be talking about it right at this moment and we would
Right.
know. So
Right.
anything past that point is just entertain. By the way, as a news junkie, this is the hardest thing for me to admit because
Yeah.
I love the news above all things. But I've always seen the news as entertainment. Most
Yeah.
things that I think most people take seriously, I've always seen as some form of entertainment. This is why I joined a cult all these years ago because I wanted to be entertained. And, you know, but I didn't take, the point is, I didn't take it as seriously as other people, which is also why I got kicked out. But the point is, we all need to be thinking if we couldn't do what we're doing now,
Hmm.
what would we do that people would want to consume? Because
Right.
that's all that's left. So that was my little opening rant. Um,
Okay.
yeah, what do you think?
I mean, everything that you said are valid points. I never I never really thought about it one way or the other. But the whole concept of infotainment, um,
Infotainment, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I feel like that's something that's just that's a standard, right? Like that's the new norm.
Well, of course, because um, if you watch Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, what is that other
Mm-hmm.
news channel? The one my mom's watch, Newsmax. So those, I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of what they are. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Can you think of any other news channels that I'm skipping?
I don't really. I'm not familiar with news channels. Sorry.
Right. Okay. So I'll even kick it back further to something that people that are old like me might remember. Rush
Oh,
Limbaugh.
like you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Rush Limbaugh. So Rush Limbaugh, people thought when they listened to Rush Limbaugh that they were listening to the news for 4 hours. Well, no,
Okay.
Rush Limbaugh was not a news person. He was an entertainment person. It was really important that he legally said that every day because
Oh.
he shares his thoughts on the news.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
only need the 10 p.m. news as a people. That's really all we need is that 1 hour of news stuff. So like
Uh-huh.
Fox News can call themselves news as long as they have at least 1 hour a day of news. Rachel Maddow, who is my favorite online TV personality, which is the right way to reference her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love her take on the news. She's my favorite, but she is not a journalist.
Okay.
So most of the things that we consume are not journalism. We're just being tricked to think that they are, but they're not. That's not journalism.
Okay.
Journalism has standards, not
Yeah.
ideas
Yeah.
or
No, you're totally
perspectives.
right. Yep.
Yeah. So if we think about that, we're not going to stop watching those things because
No.
we all love that shit, right?
Yeah.
So if AI replaced the technicalities of what we do,
Mm-hmm.
then all that's left is to provide information or
You know, you're
ideas.
absolutely right. And actually, this kind of ties in with something that we had talked about earlier, regarding topics that we want to discuss. So, one of
Hmm.
the books that I just finished reading was called Tunnel 29, and it was about the tunnel being built under the Berlin Wall. I've mentioned it several times.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Hmm.
I finally finished the damn book. Um, but it's super interesting because there is a point in the book where they talk about American journalists. I think it was NBC. Um, they they were trying really hard to find a group, a resistance group, a rebellion group that was trying to build a tunnel from West Berlin into East Berlin because they wanted to scoop like start to finish. Because usually what happened was when there was some sort of escape plan occurring, the news outlets found out about it after the fact, you know, and
Right.
so what they were able to share with the world was afterwards, like here's a picture of the escape route. And so they wanted to be able to tell the story from conception to construction, building, the actual events like of the escape, and then the people like initial reactions, kind of like what we're doing, like live reactions
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
the people as they escape from East Berlin into West Berlin. And so the NBC group was able to kind of be part of that. But what they were really specific about was the fact that as journalists, journalists, the definition of journalists, they had to be observers. They could not
Right.
participate. So they couldn't help dig. They couldn't assist the people escaping the tunnel. You know, like they couldn't involve themselves. They had to be basically flies on the wall. And
Hmm.
part of that, you know, reading about that, you're just kind of like, I understand, like on the one hand, I understand how that comes into play, but on the other hand, it's like, but you're there. Why not help? You know? But
Yeah, and I think it's a
you're
fine
absolutely
line.
right. There's guidelines. They have to be like there are rules that they have to follow. They have to be impartial because then otherwise it's almost like because it was a US based um media company,
Hmm.
if they assisted in the escape from East Berlin into West Berlin, would that be considered like assistance and then potentially an act of war?
Yes, I think so. I think that's true. I think it would have been.
Yeah.
Um,
So they had to be completely impartial
yeah.
and just kind of like hang back. So they would record videos, they would take pictures, but they weren't necessarily allowed to, or they were not supposed to build relationships with the people that they're observing, and they weren't supposed to assist them.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
It was super interesting, and I devoured the rest of the book like after it got into the specifics of that, because then it was like, okay, well, what happens next? Like, did they break their journalism? And they didn't. They were very good about it. Now, I will say that there was funding um related to the project, but the funding was specific to um equipment, like uh film reels, the video equipment. So it was very
Hmm.
specific to what they needed to do as journalists. It wasn't like they went and bought shovels and pickaxes to help them,
Right.
you know?
Right. Yeah, I think that's interesting. And see, okay, and that kind of work is not
Hmm.
going away. I
Yeah,
really
yeah.
don't think that is going away. I think documentaries, I have so many tangents. But documentaries, things like that are not going away, in my opinion. And I don't know. I am fascinated. Fascinated. Definitely want to read this blueprint. I'll send it to you.
I was gonna say share it so that I can put it in the
Do you want
show
it
notes.
here in the
Mhm.
Zoom chat?
Yeah, go ahead and put it in the Zoom
Okay.
chat.
Okay. I have not read this yet, so I don't know if it's going to be if it's going to be fascinating or,
Right.
yeah, let's see.
That's fair. Yeah.
I'm just skimming it real quick.
Okay. Now, how did you come across this?
I I spend a lot of my time when I'm not typing words. I know that sounds funny, but that's my job, right?
Yeah.
Typing words is my job.
Uh-huh.
And so when I'm not typing words, I spend a lot of time on YouTube
Okay.
listening to
Sure.
things. And so I had I now have my YouTube algorithm, which is kind of frustrating, but also cool.
What's
Tuned.
frustrating about it?
Well, I'll explain in a second. So
Okay.
my YouTube algorithm is fine tuned to what I love, which is great because
Mm-hmm.
then I get, or not what I love, but what I consume. So I get a lot of AI news now,
Uh-huh.
or headlines. So anytime something exciting is happening in AI, which is just about every day, I
Yeah.
see YouTube videos about it.
Okay.
And so I listen to a lot of YouTube. Like, let me open it up right now. Um, Coding is dead, which is an interesting headline that I could talk about because I know about that because I listened to the full, and it was not joyful. I listened to the full Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg podcast episode.
Okay.
It was like a painful 3 hours. A lot of bro, a lot of
Sure.
bro. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I was like, oh my God. Just so much like Mark Zuckerberg talking about how masculinity is good and we need to bring masculinity back and jujitsu chalk, things I don't give a shit about because I don't care
Right.
about masculinity. Um, um, just a lot of that chat. But in the middle of it, there were some really interesting things that I feel like are important. And
Okay.
that's why you had to listen because they, like us, take a lot of tangents.
Yes,
So,
sure.
so that's how I learned about these things because I listen to things like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the places where we differ because we've talked about this before. You utilize YouTube as your form of entertainment
Mm-hmm.
and learning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I use YouTube when I have a very specific thing that I want to look for, and usually it's because I'm trying to learn how to do something. So it's not my go-to like background
Yeah, exactly. I
noise or
think a
whatever.
lot of people listen to music. And so when when the average person is listening to music, I'm usually either listening to YouTube or a podcast.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, that's kind of how I treat it. So if I'm
Right.
doing the dishes or going to the bathroom or
Yeah.
doing laundry or putting away laundry or anything like that, I'm listening to some form of information,
Right.
infotainment of some sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as a result of that, I get served a lot of things related to the stuff that we talk about on this podcast.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I have added it to the notes here so that I don't forget. Um, and yeah. Okay. So anything else regarding that resource?
Um, well, yeah, let's talk about one more thing that came out of that for me. Going
Okay.
back to what I just said about coding is dead. That is
Mm-hmm.
coming from something that Mark Zuckerberg said in relation to some of the updates that have come out of AI. Mark Zuckerberg said um, this year in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to get this right, essentially AI agents will be equal to a mid-level engineer of the codes.
Okay.
So by the time this year is over, you should be able to use AI as an AI agent as an employee that is equal to or replaces a mid-level coder.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. Um, and I think it's true. And there's no reason to, I think it's already happening. So
Right.
Zuckerberg said in that interview that they're already using AI agents to do some of their coding.
Okay.
And soon AI will code itself.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So there you go. So we can move on. But that's interesting stuff.
It is interesting stuff. All righty. Well, I mean, so this one, I I have my notes pulled up because otherwise, like you mentioned, tangents
Yeah.
galore. Okay, so content strategy.
Mm.
This was something that we had discussed doing. So we're gonna how to use AI to help create content strategy.
Well, okay. So I think what we were going to do was we were going to talk about our content, what we wanted to talk about coming up next. We were going
Yes.
to plan out some content.
Yes.
And one of the things was how to use AI to create content for you because you wanted to
Oh,
know
for
more
me,
about
right,
it.
right.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And then one of my things I wanted to talk to you about on a different week was how to
How to document the
document.
flow of technology.
That's right.
Yeah,
So
that one's
that's two
exciting.
weeks of
Yes.
content.
Yes.
Um, I also have a proposal that I saw someone doing. I'm going to put the link here if you can open this up. Um, somebody's Notion site. Um, let me explain this. So Cal Newport is a professor
Okay.
who also writes books and does podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
And Andy and I are huge fans of his. And somebody that is a fan of his post, well, let me back up. Every month in one of his podcast episodes, Cal Newport says the books that he read that month and talks about them.
Okay.
A fan of Cal Newport's has started a dashboard that documents the books that he read every month. And I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
And I thought it would be interesting if maybe you and I started talking about the media that we've consumed, whether it is a documentary that we watched or a book you because you do a lot of reading. So a
I do
book
a
that I
lot
read
of
or
reading.
something that I listened to that stood out that
Mm-hmm.
we could start putting together like this on our site
Yeah.
and we could discuss it each week of something of note that we read or consumed in some way.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
so
cool. Yeah. Um, so when it comes to the books though, like combination of fiction, nonfiction is cool.
I think so. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, good.
honestly, like I just read a fiction book and it was relevant, terrifying, and awful. Um, and I'm sure, I think fiction impacts us just as much as nonfiction.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
So, Yeah. Um, so okay, so we have 2 weeks. What other content ideas do you have? Anything else that we should be putting on the agenda?
Um, I mean, some of the stuff, or actually a lot of the stuff that we talk about is very topical.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very current events. So I think some of our topics and subject matter, it might be a little difficult to plan too far ahead of time unless that topic is actually current updates, like current
Right.
events updates or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of those.
I
Um,
agree.
yeah. I think one of the questions to consider is, are we happy with the direction that it's going as far as like, I know I bring up a lot of AI and things like that.
Well, I think all of that is absolutely relevant for especially small business owners and entrepreneurs, freelancers. So the people that I know actually listen to our our shenanigans. That's the kind of stuff that they're interested in. And then even if people that aren't entrepreneurs, self-employed, freelancers and things like that, even if other people are also tuning in, I think it's still relevant for them in the way that you had mentioned earlier, where AI could be replacing some positions, um,
Yeah.
especially if
Yeah.
you're a content creator,
I think something
or not especially
too.
if you're a content creator, but how it affects you if you are in a content creation role.
I think we should talk about today um the TikTok thing.
Yes.
Because
Okay, let's do that.
something that was interesting to me that I didn't realize until, again, Andy gives me all of my information at this point. I guess she should be on the show.
She
Um,
should be on the show.
yeah,
Why isn't she? Come on, Andy.
Andy, you should be on the show because every time I say anything, it's like Andy told me this thing. Our podcast here. Yeah, we're recording right now, live. Um,
Hello, world.
she says hi. Um, an interesting thing. So many things about the TikTok thing are interesting
Hmm.
and stupid. But also, what an interesting thing to me was there's this software called CapCut. Have you heard of CapCut? Did you hear
Yes.
about this?
Yes.
This nobody knew that CapCut was owned by TikTok,
Yep.
apparently. I didn't know that. We almost
It's
chose
ByteDance, right? Or whatever the
whatever. Yeah.
parent company is.
So when TikTok went down, so did CapCut.
So did CapCut, and people did not realize that.
No, and I thought that
Hmm.
was fascinating because you sign up for a tool and you don't go, "Oh my God, who's the parent company that owns this thing?" You just
Absolutely,
sign
yeah.
up for a tool. But
Yep.
that was to me a much bigger deal than the fact that TikTok went down was the
Yeah.
fact that CapCut went down
Yep.
because people store their info in there. That's their tool. People had apparently paid the annual
Yep.
price
Hmm.
and it was just gone. And so if TikTok had not come back, I guess that would have been gone too. And you spend a lot. The interesting thing to me too is you spend a lot of time learning a tool, but
Hmm.
also obviously anybody that was making if TikTok had stayed gone, anybody that was making money on TikTok, which is apparently a ton of people,
Hmm.
that money would be gone. But also, I see a ton of YouTube videos about how to edit on CapCut. So a lot of
Yes.
people have made a lot of content centered around CapCut because you can build in a business centered around just talking about a tool or a set of tools, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So this goes back to Andy's like, why do people care about this so much when nobody cared when Google, screwed us over?
Hmm.
And I said, because Google didn't shut down.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was because this was such a bigger deal because it was like a shut off.
Yeah.
But what do you think? I want to hear your thoughts on this whole thing.
Okay, so part of why I think this was a big deal, I think people have different reasons to be outraged by the possible repercussions of like this type of ban. I know that like I have heard and read about people being upset about it or making a big deal about it because of um the parallels to, you know, media censorship. So that's one avenue that people are upset about. The
That's
other
interesting.
the other avenue people are upset about is because of communist propaganda. Like it's a Chinese owned company and they have access to too much of our information or whatever. And honestly, like the arguments to like for and against it are incredibly interesting because
They
when people
are.
say, yeah, when people say things like, oh, well, they have way too much access to all of our information, then, you know, my usual first question is, okay, well, then how do you feel about Meta?
Right. Yeah, I
Because
think that's interesting.
they
Yeah.
have just as much information, um, if not more. But so one of the things that I discovered about the whole TikTok ban too, was and another reason people were outraged was because the the stipulation that it needs to have ownership by a US company or something like that. In the not safe for Whoppers section, I'll make sure to add some resources that I came across. But if you actually read what they're requesting, it's not necessarily that it needs to be a US company purchase. It's a US company can purchase the algorithm because TikTok's algorithm is what is valuable to US companies like Meta.
Yeah, but what about the information?
Well, but that's the thing. If they have access, like if they have access to the patented, I mean, I don't know if it's patented, but if they have access to the intellectual property that created the algorithm that TikTok has developed, I mean, how easy would it be for them to implement it into something like Meta or Twitter or I don't know, whatever social media platform you want to put it on, right? And then all of a sudden you have this beautifully curated for you page. Like everything that you see on your social is specific to your interests and it changes. Because that's the thing with Meta right now. Like it takes a while for the algorithm to kind of catch up with like your changing tastes. And then
I
it
am
depends on
so
ads.
shocked that we can't, that our US based social companies can't recreate this algorithm.
It's not that they can't. It's just that whatever TikTok did, whatever their algorithm is, it's so much cleaner.
Yeah,
It's
that's what I'm saying though.
cleaner.
I'm surprised they can't duplicate this. I'm surprised this is that challenging for them.
Well, I don't necessarily know if it's challenging or if it's one of those things that we have talked about in the past, which is the algorithm becomes so complex and complicated that you don't know where things contradict.
Well,
And then
yes.
all
Okay.
of a
Yeah.
sudden it's like, okay, well, how do we clean that up? Like maybe US based companies do have the ability to do that. It's just it's much messier. Like it's not
Maybe.
as clean. So, um, I don't know. But my thoughts on the whole TikTok thing was just this is a great example of how quickly misinformation spreads and how people take whatever they hear at face value instead of, I hate that the phrase do your own research, you know, but like who has taken the time to find out more information about like, well, what exactly is the TikTok ban about? Like about what is the grounds of it? What is the premise of it? Because people are focusing on the political aspect of it instead of just, okay, at its core, like what is the end goal? Why is there a push for a ban? Why is there a push for US companies to have some sort of stake or ownership in it? You know, like that, those are the questions I usually have. And it's easy to just accept all the things that you hear from other people, but I'm like, I'm the kind of person, again, rabbit holing, I'm like, okay, well, show me. Like, what is publicly available where I can read and I can consume the information and then come up with my own conclusion. So that's my long-winded way of saying I don't have a specific thought.
Well, let me ask you
I don't have
this.
one thought. I have multiple thoughts.
I think that's interesting. I heard one thing that did make me pause about China having this kind of information on us. Because my thinking has always been there is no privacy.
Hmm.
Privacy is an illusion at this stage. If you are online, there is no privacy.
Yeah.
And I mean online in any way. That's been my assumption for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I have been like, who cares about this problem? Like,
Sure.
I couldn't come up with a reason to care.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not important. I just can't come up with a reason that I care because I feel like everything is out there already.
Yep.
But I did hear something that I thought was interesting. And that thing was if you have someone, let's say a teenager, and they are doing stupid stuff in their life, maybe embarrassing things, maybe things that they would not want them. And well, let me play this through. So they're doing stupid things. They go into their 20s. They're doing stupid things, and the Chinese government knows it. And then they get through college and they start maturing, and maybe they end up with an important government job.
Hmm.
That stupid stuff has been documented, and now the Chinese government has it, and you could use that to blackmail them in the future. And that is interesting. That made me like, okay, that could be bad, because
Sure.
I don't think that if you're having private Facebook chats um, on Meta, like on WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger,
Hmm.
I don't think Facebook is documenting all of those chats and passing it to the U.S. government. I don't think that's what's happening. But I do think anything that is said or done or viewed or consumed on TikTok is most likely being, about every American, is most likely being cataloged in some way for future use by
Hmm.
China. I do believe that's true. I think
Sure.
that's totally reasonable. I think it's crazy how much space, but I think it's worth it. Because if suddenly you became Donald Trump's secretary of the internet, they can go through their life of Nadja knowledge and say,
Hmm.
okay, here's how we can use what we know about her to manipulate her,
Hmm.
to make
Yep.
decisions or blackmail you. And
Yep.
that is alarming. And I think that is interesting and worth considering. Now, what I would didn't say to that is we assume that while Meta, I think it's safe to believe, and I do think it's safe to believe and safe to assume that Meta is not daily feeding that kind of data about a person to the US government or any government. But what we
Hmm.
don't know is if some other government, say the Chinese government, is hacking everything and still getting all of that data.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because we keep hearing all these hacking stories of, they hacked the
Yeah.
not the U.S. Mint, the Treasury
The
Department, right?
Treasury. Yeah.
I think it was. Is that right? Was it the Treasury
I
Department?
think it was the Treasury. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let me add that to our not safe for Whoppers, not
yeah,
safe for
yeah,
Whoppers
exactly.
section just to
Um,
double check. Okay, so what was recently hacked?
right. So, I mean, I think one of the interesting things too about the TikTok thing is I hear this rumor. This also needs to go in the not safe for Whoppers. The rumor that I hear all the time is that in China, the trending thing for teenagers might be um, someone playing their violin. It's intellectual of some nature, not somebody put a firecracker up their butt, not the stupid shit that Americans consume.
Okay. Yeah.
So in China, what kids are consuming is intellectual.
Skill.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
And so one of the things is like, well, they're feeding the algorithm to Americans just to make us dumber. But the problem is nobody's making you watch it,
Right.
right? It's kind of like,
It's a nurture versus nature situation.
well, sure. To me, I think of it the same way I do. This is going to trigger people. So, trigger warning. But I think about this a lot with the conversations about the border and drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that we don't have an issue with drugs coming across the border. But what I am saying is that today, right now, if somebody came across the border with, 5 pounds of fentanyl and put it in my living room, I'm still not going to take fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who are taking fentanyl, we need to address why they're taking fentanyl instead of trying to stop it from coming across the border. How can we make it so that nobody wants to take it? And I know that's an oversimplification of drug addiction. I
Mm-hmm.
understand that. Do not email me. I get that. I'm trying to make it simple for the sake of this conversation. So, my point is if the only thing on TikTok was people playing a violin, teenagers in America are not going to watch TikTok,
Right.
right? That's not what we're interested in as a society right now.
Sure.
So if suddenly um, we need to address the question of why do we want to consume so much brain rot as Americans, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Because I know that I do.
Yeah. I do too. And actually, that's one of the reasons why I I deleted almost all of my social media apps from my cell phone
Which
so that
ones
it's not
did you
so
delete?
easily accessible. I deleted Facebook and Instagram and Threads. So all the Meta products, I have deleted it from my phone. I didn't delete my account. So let's
Yeah.
clarify that.
Yeah. Just from
I
your phone.
st I can access it on my desktop because I need it for work purposes. And then
Mm-hmm.
also because, yeah, that's how I keep in contact with a lot of my friends from all over the world, right?
Right.
But I have removed the accessibility from my phone. And just the act of doing that, because that happened over the weekend. I did it on like Friday or Saturday. So it's only been like 2 or 3 days, right? But it made me very aware, like as soon as I deleted it from my phone, it made me very aware of how often I picked up my phone and I went looking for Facebook or Instagram or Threads. I deleted Twitter from my phone too. Basically,
Really?
the only social media apps that I have on my phone um, are I have Reddit on there.
Okay.
I have Facebook Messenger because my kids have Messenger Kids. And so I
Oh,
want to
okay.
be able to continue monitoring that easily
Mm-hmm.
and quickly. And I still have LinkedIn on my phone, but also the last time I accessed LinkedIn on my phone was, I don't even remember because
I
I
don't even know
only
my LinkedIn
ever,
password. I can't
yeah,
find it.
I only ever log into LinkedIn on my desktop because to me, when I'm on my computer, this is work related. Like I am on my computer because of something specific to work, a task that I need to complete. And so it's very intentional when I use my laptop, my computer. And yeah, but the number of times just in one day of me picking up my phone and then trying to find Instagram, because Instagram is my social media of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the number of times that I did that was embarrassing. Because every time I picked up my phone, it was just like muscle memory, like pick up phone,
Yeah.
look for Instagram, and then I'm like, oh crap, it's not there. And so I set my phone down. But guess what I've done over the weekend? I put away laundry. I ironed. I read instead of scrolling mindlessly on Instagram. Like, like these are, it seems like very small things, which they are, but those small things add up. And just the fact that I was able to accomplish so many more things in the time that I would have spent wasting just brain rotting on social platforms, like that was a very that was a very jarring experience for me over the weekend.
So when you did pick up your phone over the weekend, what did you do?
Well, the first thing I did was I went looking for
No, I know,
Instagram,
but what did you end up doing after that? Like, since
setting
there
my
was,
phone back down.
wow,
Like
okay, so you didn't
I
like, so you didn't
put it,
replace it with another app.
no, I put it down because when I pick up my phone, it's so I can mindlessly scroll.
So, what do you think a phone is for?
Scrolling social media.
Yeah, yeah.
No, to me, a phone is for its convenience. It's convenience of access.
Do you have a home phone?
Not anymore.
Yeah, me either. We tried to get one, I think it was last year or the year before.
Oh yeah,
They've gotten really expensive.
they don't really exist anymore. There are only certain providers that actually do a co because if you call and you're like, I want a home phone, usually you're being offered a voice over IP, which is still it's still a data driven phone
Yeah,
line,
yeah,
right?
that's right.
But
Yeah.
if you specifically say I want a co like I want an old school like plug it into the wall and it's through a cable phone line, there are very limited number of providers that actually offer that.
To me, a phone is a device I use to text my mother, and and then other than that, it is for doom scrolling the news.
Hmm.
I bet I hold on. There's an app on the iPhone, right, that will tell me how I spend my time.
Oh yeah, it's well, I don't know what it is on the iPhone. Maybe it's called Screen Time or something like that. On
Okay, here we go. I think I just found it. Screen time.
yeah, because I was gonna say on an Android, it's Digital Wellness. Or maybe,
So,
oh, actually, it's not that anymore. What is it now? It used to be
uh,
Digital Wellness. So what are you looking for?
just how much time I spend on my. Okay, on
Oh,
average, I spend
digital
12 hours a.
well-being, by the way. It's on Android, it's digital well-being.
So, according to this, I spend 12 hours a day on my phone.
12?
12. 11 hours and 56 minutes is my daily average. That doesn't make sense.
I was gonna say, I'm like, that's a lot. Like you're just on your phone all the time.
Well, yes and no. So here we go. This is
You're
funny.
like, yes
So,
and no.
well, because remember how I said I listen to things? So, like, I'll listen to Brain FM while
Oh,
I'm
okay, yeah,
writing, or,
yeah. Mhm.
um, so today, this is funny. Today, according to this, I have spent 9 hours on my phone. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, I spent 28 minutes on my calculator.
Mm-hmm.
That's true because I was doing a bunch of math for blogging. 13 minutes on YouTube because I was listening to Cal Newport talk about productivity.
Mm-hmm.
7 minutes on Slack. 4 minutes on texting.
Mm-hmm.
4 minutes on Facebook. 3 minutes on Safari. 2 minutes on a phone call. That's right. Yeah. 1 minute on ChatGPT. 1 minute on calendar. 39 seconds checking my Facebook ads. So how does that end up equal to 9 hours? That doesn't make
Maybe it's
sense.
the amount of time that your phone is active, like
Maybe.
not
I've picked up
asleep.
I've picked up my phone 36 times today. Two of them were for the calculator, two of them are YouTube, and then one for each other thing that I just listed.
Okay, see, look, mine is totally different because just for yesterday, so this is yesterday. Okay, well, actually, let's do today. So today I have 1 hour 52 minutes spent on my phone.
Okay.
Um, I was on the phone, like I actually used the phone for phone calls, a total of 26 minutes today.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, 8 minutes on text messages, 7 minutes on Google Chrome, um, 3 minutes on Bookmori, which is my book tracking app,
Okay.
3 minutes on WhatsApp, because again, it's messaging with my friends, 3 minutes on Messenger, 2 minutes on Space City weather. because I'm trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
forecast is for the snowpocalypse of Houston.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is like less than 1 minute on my banking app, less than 1 minute on clock, which is where my alarms are. Another less than 1 minute on Weather Underground, and then weather. I've been really focused on the
Well,
weather.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you're about to have a snowpocalypse,
Yeah.
which I
So
hope you keep me updated on that.
I sure will. I absolutely
I
will.
tried to send you plenty of pictures of our snow. I don't remember
Yeah.
if I actually did, but I
Yes, you
think I
did. Pictures and videos. So thank you for
Yeah.
that. But yeah, so my activity, it's been my activity, my phone activity has been less than 2 hours for the whole day so far. And if I look at yesterday, so oopsies. So yesterday um was an hour on Reddit. Look at that. I replaced
Wow. Wow. Really?
yesterday. So throughout the entire day, I spent a total of an hour on Reddit. But 42 minutes on messages, so that's my text messaging. 14 minutes on Google Maps, 11 minutes on Duolingo, 8 minutes on the phone, 8 minutes on Space City weather, 5 minutes on photos, Messenger. I used my camera for 3 minutes. I was on the calendar for 3 minutes. But you see how it's very different? Like these are very specific, actionable things that I was doing other than Reddit. Reddit was the scrolling, right? But then I look at Saturday. So Saturday I did a lot of driving around.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent an hour and 20 minutes using Google Maps
Interesting.
because I use it for navigation and then I
Yeah.
keep it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, an hour and 20 minutes on Google Maps, 53 minutes on Reddit, 31 minutes text messaging, 14 minutes on Bookmori, which is that book app, another 11 minutes on Duolingo. See, I dedicate like 10 to 11 minutes on Duolingo.
What
Do not
language?
ask me if I know how to speak Spanish.
Oh, Spanish. Okay.
I just know like snippets. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like okay, so the other things because since Saturday was a day of being out and about, that's why I had so much time on maps. I also had time opening Starbucks and Smoothie King, those apps because I was trying to get my rewards.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are very intentional. And then if I go all the way back to like let me see the
Like
time
Wednesday.
when I had like Facebook and Instagram. Okay. Oof. I don't
Let
want to
me,
tell you.
yeah. No, tell me. Let's hear it.
Oh. Well, okay, so an hour and 54 minutes on Instagram, an hour and 26 minutes on Facebook, 58 minutes on Reddit,
How long on Facebook?
an hour 26 minutes on Facebook
Wow.
in a day. So again, that's cumulative. Like it wasn't like I sat there for an hour and a half straight, but that's how many times I picked it up, scrolled, and then closed out, and then picked it up, scrolled, and closed out. Because I'm not creating content on Facebook or Instagram. So that time that I'm on there isn't spent creating content or commenting on people's, like that's just me scrolling.
Scrolling. You know what? I just opened up Facebook. Okay, first of all, this is interesting. So, does it tell you the time of day that you're on Facebook?
I bet I could find
So,
out.
like here it tells me my daily average is 28 minutes on Facebook. But, fascinating thing, it's usually between 8 and 9 a.m., at 12 p.m., and then it doesn't start again until like after 8 p.m., which is true because I look in the morning on Facebook. I tend to look at it while I'm eating my food
Mm-hmm.
and at lunchtime. And then I scroll it in the evenings, just looking at stuff in between TV shows.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Hmm. Oh, I can't go further back because since I deleted the app, I only get the last week of activity.
Interesting.
Anything prior to that is all gone. All my Instagram, Facebook, because I deleted the app.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So most of my time is spent on YouTube, podcast, and Facebook, and the news app.
Ah, okay.
So if I deleted those things from my phone, I'd have no reason to pick up my phone.
Yep. Okay, so I'm looking at my screen time and I can do it daily or hourly. So if I do it hourly, my usual hours for Reddit, it's like,
Reddit.
I know.
Andy loves Reddit too. I just forget that it exists.
I love Reddit because it's very similar to how I set up like I guess like my TikTok feed, which is
Mm-hmm.
it's very curated. So the things that I see are specific to the subreddits that I follow, which are things like sewing and crocheting. And I do follow Fauxmoi for celebrity gossip because why not,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
But
What
like if
the
Houston, the Houston and Texas subreddits, I follow
Okay.
those because that's where I get a lot of my, I mean, not news, but the things that people want to discuss specifically in Houston and or Texas, and then I can go and because typically it's linked to some sort of news article or website or something like that, and then I can go read into it further. Um, I've I'm on the subreddit, what is this bug?
It sounds like a subreddit you would be on. That's
And
awesome.
also, what is this thing? And it's just people like posting things that
Yeah.
they're like, I don't know what this is. Does anybody know what this is? Those are the things that interest me, okay? Um,
So
well,
let me
that
ask you a
sucks.
question.
Conspiracy.
Oh, that sounds like a good one. Yeah. Honestly, your Reddit sounds great.
It
It
is.
sounds
It's
really good.
fantastic.
Yeah. What would you what do you want? There's two questions, but I only want you to answer one.
Okay.
The first question is, what do you think you should be doing with this time? And but the second question, which is the most important one, is what do you want to be doing with your time? If you weren't on your phone, what is it that you want to do with the time?
Oh, I mean, honestly, it's going to be exactly the same thing. Like, I want to be learning. I want to be learning new things, finding out information, and that's what I use my phone. Oh, there's my answer. What do I use my phone for? What do I think a phone is used for?
Yeah.
It is used as a source of information.
I know it is for me. I mean, I don't know that I'm always listening to the right information, but I'm following
Sure.
my curiosities.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's definitely far less for connecting with people for me.
yeah.
And it's
I
far
mean,
more about,
I connect with people, but that's because what I do does have a lot of front facing, like I have to speak with clients on the phone or text back and forth. Um,
well, maybe I should say personal connections.
oh, personal connections. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I use my phone for personal connections all the time.
Yeah. I don't do a lot of that.
I was going to say, you get a
So,
lot of text messages from me.
yeah, that's true. Um, yeah. Um, Interesting.
And
I'm
usually it's
starving.
nonsensical stuff that I send.
I love that though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very hungry and I shouldn't be because I had yogurt and stuff
Oh,
before this with fruit.
yeah.
I'm
Well,
starving.
I was gonna say, well, we did get some of our content ideas put down.
Hmm.
So,
The only
um,
thing we didn't talk about though is we didn't, which I don't want to right now because it'll take too long and I'm
yeah.
hungry. But we didn't talk about any content that we've consumed that we want to talk about.
Yes.
So we'll have to
Oh,
start that next
can
episode.
I just share the book that I just finished reading last night where
Yeah,
Lance
yeah,
looked
yeah.
over at me and he was like, "Are you crying?" And I was like,
Oh
"No,
no.
I'm not crying."
What was
Okay.
it?
So I devoured this book. I read it in 2 days. And then
Oh,
because I love data. Okay. So anybody who knows me knows that I love data and obviously,
wait,
um,
Data as in the character from Star Wars?
no, like
Or
data points.
oh, okay, okay,
Yes. Okay. So I
okay.
love data points. Okay. And so I consumed this book in 2 days, and then according to my book app, I spent about 5 hours or a little under 5 hours reading it. So that's that's how great this book was. It was very consuming for me because
Okay,
I devoured it.
okay.
It's called The House in the Cerulean Sea. And it is such a beautiful book. It's it is a fiction, obviously. It's a
Okay, I just
fiction
found it.
with fantasy elements in it. And it's the story of a caseworker who who investigates or um like critiques, right? Orphanages. And
Oh God.
and the oh, there it is. Yep. And so in the these children's homes, the kids are unusual. So
Okay.
let's just say that the kids in the homes that he investigates, they are an unusual group of children,
Like
usually.
Harry Potter type unusual
Like,
or
yes, like magical,
okay.
fantastical. So,
Interesting.
yeah, and it's a great story about like found family. So if you like the found family trope, um, that's got those elements in it. And I was gonna say the reason that I found it so fascinating was after I did a little bit of reading on the inspiration of these books, it is actually based on it's based on orphanages in Canada where like these kids were being taken away from their families. I want to say it might have something to do with like indigenous families. They were being taken away from their families and put in these homes for their own good, kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, so I think like some of the messages, like the message and the lessons that are woven through the story are very much like you can find you can find family. Sometimes it's not your blood family, but also if people have a place where they feel safe and they feel accepted for who they are, like you can look past strange and unusual things. You know, you can look past stereotypes. You can look
Mhm.
past um, what preconceived notions you have on this type of person or this type of people,
Mhm.
and then realize you're all the same. Like underneath, you all have dreams. You all have wishes to be good. Like you want to be a good person, you want to do good things. Um and yeah,
Fascinating.
it's beautiful. And for those who find that kind of stuff important, there is there is LGBTQA plus representation in the book too.
Yeah, that list has gotten long.
I know
Um
it's
I feel
gotten
like we
long.
need to go back to just saying queer, even though I know that's not
Queer.
fair or accurate.
Yes. Yes.
But I almost feel like it would be easier.
You're right. Yeah.
Sorry.
So, yes, it's a beautiful book. I think if you are looking for just kind of like a fantastical, get you out of reality book, this is a really good
Sure.
one to look into. And then if you want to dive back into the rabbit hole of depression, then look into the inspiration of the story and then become very sad and upset about like what these families were put through.
Yeah, see, that is definitely not making my list because I have a new rule ever since the Million Dollar Baby, that movie, Million Dollar Baby, I think it's
Uh-huh.
spelled. Um, that movie changed my life.
Okay.
And I will no longer consume anything if I know that I might cry because I consumed it.
Oh, no,
I
no,
do
no.
not want that emotional manipulation in my
No,
life.
this was a good cry. Like
I don't care. I
it
don't
wasn't a
care.
heartbroken cry.
It was not? Oh, okay. Well,
No,
then I might
no,
could live with it.
it was it was a good like a happy crying.
Oh, I might could live with that.
Yeah.
I might could
No,
live with that.
it was
Yeah.
definitely a happy crying.
Mm. Okay.
So
Can
there you
you
go.
write
It
down
has a happily ever after.
that next week I want to ask you what the hell is the point of Goodreads?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk about that.
Good, because I want to know.
Okay,
So,
so I'm gonna make a note here. Next episode, talk about the point of Goodreads or not just thoughts of good on
right.
Goodreads.
That, yeah, it's all that matters in these conversations is our thoughts. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I have put it on there. It'll be the first thing we talk about during the intro. How about that?
I think we need to build a
Because I have
community.
thoughts.
Yeah. This year, I think we need to build a community around our communities.
Yeah.
So, what I mean by that is we need to publish what Reddit threads you read and see how many of us all can get on the same Reddit threads together.
Okay. This you
For
mean the
example,
subreddits?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And then, like, all these little things that we use, we should start seeing if we can connect with other people on them, like whether
Okay.
it's Facebook groups or whatever.
So I have just added in the in the description, Nadja will share the list of subreddits that she follows.
Yes, exactly. And then I will start following them. And
Okay.
since I don't follow any, first of all, step one, I'll create a subreddit, or I mean a Reddit account.
A Reddit account, yeah.
Because I think I have one now that I think almost without exaggeration, every time I do go to Reddit, it like creates a Reddit account for me so that it can be in Reddit, but I don't even know what it is. And every time I think it just creates a new one. That's how infrequent I go to Reddit. So
Sure.
Andy, I will, so as a result, by proxy, I will see if Andy wants to recommend any Reddit accounts that I should
Yes.
come to the table with.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
please. Please.
Okay. All right, great. When are we recording again?
Well, our next one is on Thursday.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I mean, we can do that one live too, since we didn't do last Monday because I was in Dallas.
Okay, hold on. I have a Mediavine, which is my ad network thing, on Thursday at noon,
Okay.
but it will be over promptly at 1.
Okay. Yeah, and
Like
our
very
recording
prompt.
is
Okay.
scheduled for 1 o'clock. So,
Okay.
well, and also Thursdays are my back-to-back days. So typically Thursdays are when we have to be a lot more concise
That's true.
to
Yeah.
begin with. So we won't prattle on as much on Thursday.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Bye,
Okay,
guys.
sounds good. Thanks.